So a lot of people, there's like a recent Reddit post that somebody made like on like why Hungrybox is so much better than the other puffs. And so like the guy like analyzed a few things. I don't really remember the full gist of it. I think one of the things he mentioned was that he gets more grabs, or he's aggressive with grabs. And so on the surface, I think that's a very decent. Um, it's a very decent observation, but like if people were kind of looking at a bullet point and they go like, "Oh, Jigglypuff has just to grab more," um, it doesn't really explain the nuance of the game. And I know that the Redditor did write some explanation and follow up to enlighten like maybe why this is the case. So I want to just give a few of my observations from more of a kind of deep analytical level. Unfortunately, this is where Melee Science would have been nice for me because they would edit me some clips in, but I don't have an editing team right now. I think one of the biggest things you can do at the tip top level of any competitive game is to get a person, like when you're really good at a game and you're like top, you really understand how to get people to do things they don't want to do. Now, when you read that Reddit piece and saying and it says like Hungrybox gets grabs on people, like every top player understands the power of Puff's grab, especially on Fox or like a Spacey, because like a grab that's not DI'd leads to a kill, or even worse, it leads to like another combo where maybe Puff doesn't even have to rest to get the kill confirmed. So overall, when you play like a top 10 level player, like top 20, top 50 or whatever, like one of the main things they're looking out for is Jigglypuff's grab. And yet we see Hungrybox getting grabs, and we probably see like the other puffs, 2 St. Michael 41,000, I don't know, 42nd, Jerry, like they're gonna want the grab. Everybody knows this. Their opponents know this. Like it's very understanding that a grab is a very powerful option in the game. And at all moments, the Jigglypuff players, even that aren't like Hungrybox level, are going to be looking for grabs all the time. But it's really hard to get a grab on an opponent that knows that the grab is powerful. What I mean is, if I see a puff next to me, like I'm going to be buffer rolling, I'm going to be jumping out, I'm going to be doing a bunch of like preemptive things to eliminate the possibility of a grab. So one of the big things that we kind of have to examine here then is, with all these kind of rules and common knowledge between the players, like in this dialogue, the grab is powerful and the player wants to not get grabbed. That's a pretty common dialogue that everybody understands, but within that kind of rule and conversation, how does Hungrybox get the grab? And because if we just say he gets grabs, it doesn't really tell the full story. And the reason why, it's because I kind of don't want to turn this into a meme, but he understands how to first off put you into very familiar situations where there are very distinct options that you have. So one of the biggest things he knows how to do as a player is Hungrybox knows how to keep you grounded and how to keep you stuck in shield. And why this is very important is because since he's poking around and spacing very well with back airs, and to be fair, back air is a really oppressive tool that you're going to have to block a lot, he's drifting and preparing himself in a way that he's observing what your response is. Because as you fall down, there's a kind of couple of options, and I'm simplifying it. Puff has a variety of options with aerial drift. Let's say as he's falling down into a grounded character, let's say a grounded Fox, he can throw out an aerial which forces out the shield, or he can do nothing, but as long as he's in that space, he's threatening hitting. If you're holding shield as Fox and you let go of shield, the puck can just kick you again, so you're kind of contained. Now, to beat this and to get out of this bad position, you can do a bunch of common options here, and there's probably a lot more, but for simplicity's sake, the most common options are probably just jump, just full hop, get out of that space as much as possible. You may get hit, but you may land on the platform, and you just get out of that rough zone where Puff is hovering around you. You can roll, or you can hold shield. Let's say you can hold shield, you can jump, or you can roll. Those are probably the most common options you'll see in terms of movement. And keep in mind, I'm simplifying this. Now, overall, what kind of tends to happen is that if you're shielding a lot because Hungrybox is poking you, and you don't start rolling or jumping, he's going to start mixing in tomahawks and the empty hop grab. And because he's so threatening and he's so good at mixing you up and understanding how long you're willing to hold shield, he can just jump in without an aerial, which has some post lag. So if you throw an aerial and it gets blocked, as Jigglypuff, like, you have a window of time where you can't do much and you kind of have to drift away. And it's kind of a stalemate situation if you keep back airing or forward airing a shield and it doesn't do anything, except now you have to pull back so you don't get out of shield punished. And if you throw that back air over and over again, you're not really leaning too much. But what you do recognize in this situation is the fact that your opponent's shielding a lot. And now it becomes a question of how long is your opponent willing to shield. So if you jump in, you mix up the timing, and they're still holding shield for a long period of time. It could be even a light shield. This kind of gives you a minor opening where you can jump in and empty hop. And this leads into another mix-up situation. Now, most commonly if a player is really good and they're in tune, the moment they see Puff land, a lot of the reactionary tick is to either roll or jump. Now, how Hungrybox counteracts this is that he can jump in and fake like he's going for a tomahawk and then read the roll and either back air it. Now, if he has center stage, and Hungrybox does the same thing, and he starts back airing, and he starts landing next to you, and you buffer roll as your opponent, you have to buffer roll away from Hungrybox. And what this gives Hungrybox is all of the stage, where now if Hungrybox gets that one back air, he can get you off stage and kill you. So that's not really a good situation either. It's an unfavorable mix-up to either lose space or get grabbed. Although the buff roll backwards away from Hungrybox will get you safely out of the situation if he tries to tomahawk grab you, he can just jump in front of you, not land, and use his second jump to back air. And you still get hit anyway out of the roll, or even worse, if he preemptively reads it, he'll jump into you in up air, and that can lead into a kill if you don't DI that properly. He can up air near the ground, and maybe this puts you in a tech situation where if you don't tech, you die, or if you don't DI left or right, you die, and that's a pretty good mix-up. Now that kind of eliminates roll, because if you're overeager to roll, it becomes a 50-50, so you start getting scared. You're like, okay, I shouldn't be rolling in this situation because either I'm losing stage or like he's reading the roll and I have to be less preemptive about it. Although I'll have to say that roll is pretty safe most of the time. So let's say Hungrybox begins to like anticipate that you're rolling a lot, and then now you're scared to roll, so you start holding in place. Now your decision is, do I just stay stationary and watch him drift away from me, and then I'm safe to jump after? Well, in these situations, he can mix it up and say, like, I'm not going to drift towards where you roll, he's going to just land and grab you. And that's another scenario where he can get the grab. Now, I want to also explain the other option where if he tomahawks, a lot of people like to jump away. It's a very good fox option against floaties because most floaties have a hard time reacting to it. Now with floaties, you're starting to see a lot more floaties read the jump. For example, Armada may preemptively full hop up air to read the fox jump. But the danger in this situation here is that if Hungrybox jumps in front of you and he reads that you're jumping and he preemptively up airs, you're also in a lot of trouble, and you can take a lot of damage of, like, depending on percentage, on an up air rest potentially, or up air into like 3 back airs if you don't DI correctly, and that also becomes a dangerous situation. So all in all, why the grab is so lethal for Hungrybox and why he gets it so often is because he can cover other options very strongly if he reads correctly. Whereas I feel like with other puffs, yeah, if they get the grab, they're probably going to be able to get a good follow-up if they can read that you're going to hold shield. But Hungrybox has options where if you roll away, like, he can potentially cover it, or he gains stage advantage and he capitalizes off of that. If he reads a jump with an up air, like, he can kill you, and if he gets a grab, he can kill you. So all these things are equally threatening, and because of that, it's really hard to be like, just don't give him the grab, because if you don't give him the grab and you like parlay this by preemptively pushing another defensive option, Hungrybox has the tools to also kill you or do a lot of damage if he reads your anti-grab mechanics. So just because everything is so like threatening too is why the grab game is available for Hungrybox and not so much for the other players. Where there are like low level Peach is a good example. Whereas if I'm playing Sheik and let's say Peach is floating at a height in front of me and threatening fair into jab, what I can do is just buffer roll every time or buffer roll away, and Peach can never catch me. And until the point where I have to give them credit for reading the buffer roll. That's something I'm just going to do every time, and I'm not going to get punished. And I feel like with the other puffs, they know certain options where where if you're playing against the weaker puffs, like there's probably a safe defensive option that you can flat out abuse, and the other puff will never punish it, and so that's why they can't get the grab. So those are overall just kind of my thoughts on Hungrybox and just this kind of particular situation. Just because he makes so many different, like if you choose an option and he guesses correctly, and he's going to cover like almost every single kind of option, like in kind of a mix-up situation, because it's so threatening. That's why he's able to like get a bunch of things that other puffs won't. And those are kind of my thoughts on the topic.